All right, perfect. So, other than car loans, right? What other short-term loans do you do? Furniture loans, personal loans, like TV purchasing loans. What other things might you, credit cards, there we go. Credit cards, folks, are a short-term loan, right? When you put something on your credit card, you're basically borrowing that money for almost a day, or a month, and then at the end of that month, you pay back the loan to the credit card company. And what does that credit card company do to you because they're so nice? They don't charge you interest if you pay the amount in full over that 20 to 30 day period, right? If you don't pay the amount in full, then what does the credit card company get to do? It gets to make money. It gets to earn money so that company becomes a profitable industry so that they can hire people and give people a job. Now, I'm spinning it so that it sounds good when people don't pay their credit cards. It is bad. You shouldn't do it. But I'm just letting you know that that's the way government tends to spin credit card debt. They tend to look at it as, well, it's making jobs for people. Yeah, let's not even go through the average. Yeah, I don't even want to know. Okay. So, car loans, credit card loans, and of course, don't forget, right? Your loan shark loans, or payday loans, which we've already talked about a little bit. We won't go back into them, but they're part of this too, right? It's just that, generally speaking, payday loans tend to charge good old simple interest, which we did back in Chapter 10. That stuff is still around, folks. It's just that you don't divvy up the payments into multiple payments on purpose. Right? Usually when you're doing a payday loan or a loan shark loan, you're borrowing money and you're paying it back all in one fell swoop. That is simple interest. That's Chapter 10. Okay? So, we won't cover these, but realize that they're in there in those short-term loan things. And just remember, these are simple interest. It only becomes compound interest when the loan shark comes back to you and says, well, you don't have the $1,500 that you owe me? Well, I'm going to start tacking interest on top of the interest. That's when a loan shark actually starts to add interest on top of it, right? And a lot of these types of places, when you don't make your full payment when you pay them off, you're going to be paying interest on your interest. And it's a lot like these other loans that we'll talk about here in a second. It's just that loan sharking loans, once you get to a certain point, they quit trying to ask for money and instead ask for various body parts. Organ harvesting, you don't need 2 kidneys, right? You just need 1. You don't need 2 arms, you just need 1. Well, anyways, yeah, don't go to loan sharks in case you haven't figured that out. Right? Anyways, so let's do a simple financing then, all right? So let's finance a car. All right, so the 2 things that you got to work with, right? The things that we want to work or calculate. What we need. So when you're buying a car, what do you usually have to do at the very beginning?
Down payment.
You need a down payment, right? And this is how much of the price are you paying up front? And if this is going to be a loan, this number needs to be less than the price of the thing that you're buying. Right, so if you tell me that you're buying a $15,000 car and that your down payment was $16,000, yeah, okay, please don't tell me things like that. Right? This is one of those times where you guys understand how these things work. So if you write down numbers that make no sense whatsoever, immediately I'm going to look at them and go, yeah, great. You didn't even think about this at all. You just wrote numbers down and walked away. That makes me sad. All right? So once you have a down payment, you will then have an amount financed, or how much you borrowed, right? It's just the price minus the down payment. And so let me define all of these things too, just to be safe, right? How much money you borrowed. Never hurts to have a verbal description, right? Keep it in your brain what it means to have the amount financed. Now, since you're borrowing money, what do you have to do? You have to pay interest. In the biz, folks, it is called the finance charge, all right? How much interest you pay. Again, there will be times where we have to compute what the finance charge is. There will be times when we are given the finance charge. We'll work with those cases as we get to them, all right? Alright, and the last thing that you will ask, or usually have to work for, and that's alright, let me make sure I give it to you the right way. The verbiage is actually relatively important, because you'll see these on contracts. The deferred payment price. It is basically the total payment price, but they call it the deferred payment price. And all this is it's the price plus the finance charge. So the price is how much you pay for something. The finance charge is how much you pay for the interest, paying on top of it in interest. The sum of those two is the deferred payment price. The answer to this, the verbal answer, or verbal description, is how much you actually paid for whatever item it is that you're buying, right? It's how much cash you actually doled out if you add it all up. Right? Now there will be some other numbers that will float in and around in there, but these are the four basic things that you work with when you're dealing with financing, okay? And if you have financed anything in your life, you have probably had to deal with those four. The names have changed a little bit over time. Various different places may use slightly different terms, but those are the basic ones that you work with. Alright, so let's just do a straightforward problem where we're not going to worry about our interest rates or anything like that at all. But let's just calculate these things under a given example. Okay? So, how much should my car cost? What's my car? Car costs. Car costs $32,000. Okay, or at least that's its price. How much am I going to put down? Normally, what do they make you put down when you're buying something? 10%, 20%, depending on the type of item that you're purchasing, or how good your credit is. The worse your credit is, the higher that percentage will be. All right, but let's say I put 10% down and financed the car, let's say, over, how long do you think I should finance it for? 4 years? Is that long enough?
Yeah.
Okay. my finance charge is, let's go with $4,000. So I'm just going to give you how much I'm paying for the financing. I don't have very good graphs. So what I want you to do is to figure out these four things, and then we're going to figure out a fifth one at the very bottom. Alright, so find the four basic elements of financing, which I've just described to you. So first off, what was my down payment? 3,200. How'd you get that? 10% down. So I took 10% of 32,000, folks. That's why we did chapter 6, 7, and 8. Right? Perfect. How much did I finance? How'd you figure that out?
Subtract the deposit. Or down payment.
32,000 minus the 3,200, 2,880. So I'm borrowing $28,800 over 4 years. What's my finance charge? I gave it to you here, so it's pretty straightforward. What is my deferred payment price? How much did I actually pay for this $32,000 car? $36,000, right? Because it cost me $32,000 to buy it, and I'm paying an extra $4,000 in interest. $36,000 in total payment. Now, here comes the fun one, which is one that's not standard, but sometimes you have to figure it out.
Monthly payment.
Yeah, what's my monthly payment? Now be careful. Remember that I put some money down. Don't make me pay that money again. So what two numbers do I need to work with to figure out what my monthly payment is? In other words, how much do I have to pay back with my monthly payments?
Would you do the deferred payment price minus the down payment?
That's one way to do it, is to take the deferred payment price and subtract the down payment, because that's how much I have to pay back. What's another way of doing it?
Take 1, 2, or 3 and add it together. And
Or take the amount you financed, add the finance charge, and that's how much you owe. Please note, those numbers, exactly the same. Great when math works out the right way, right? But when you're calculating the monthly payment, usually adding is easier for you guys, so that's why I tend to go amount financed plus finance charge. But Abby, if you want to do deferred payment minus down payment, it works just as well. And then what am I going to do with that number?
Divide it by 48.
Why 48?
4 years.
4 years, I'm making monthly payments, 48. Because you got to pay, you want equal monthly payments, right? So what is my 28,800 plus the 4,000 divided by 48? What does that work out to be? Rounded to the nearest penny? See, does that sound about right? And if you're going to punch this in your calculator, make sure. All right. Not bad, right? All right, so what's missing from this problem now?
Finance rate.
Yeah, what interest rate am I paying? So the only thing that's really missing here then is how do I figure out what my APR is? So finding APR. Remember back in chapter 12, we were doing APY, which was annual percentage yield. That's the annual percentage that we're earning in interest. APR is the other side of that coin. It's the annual percentage rate. It's the annual percent that you would be paying in interest if you considered this as a relatively simple interest type problem. All right, now, to calculate APR, we go back to the table. Because if you go to the pages past all of our column 1 through 5 stuff, sort of get past the payroll stuff, which we're not going to deal with, and the tax stuff. Don't worry about single or married people. They're not important anyways, those single and married people. And I will first off immediately apologize to you when you get to the pages that you know where you need to be, because the title of them are called annual percentage rate. And what do you notice about the numbers right off the bat? Yeah. Don't ask me why they do this, but this is the way almost all of the tables for APR look. I mean, you would literally have to go into the website that this generates them on and expand them yourselves to get them in a larger font, but whatever. All right, now, the way you calculate APR, it's based off of the sentence that you read right underneath the percentages. It's finance charge per $100 of amount financed. So the way we're going to do this, right, APR is on the table where you look for this number. And again, this table is weird. I apologize to you. It's just a little bit on the different side, so you kind of have to, sort of bear with me to some degree. Once I show it to you, you'll sort of get it, but it's just. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your finance charge, amount financed per finance charge, the amount the finance charge divided by the amount financed. Finance charge, just the straight up finance charge itself, divided by the amount financed, and that comes from that sentence, finance charge per amount financed, and then it said per $100 of financing, so what you have to do at the end of this, that's the per $100, okay? So this equation is just me translating this sentence underneath the APR title page of your tables. Finance charge per $100 of amount financed. So finance charge per amount financed, and then times $100. Okay? That's all that formula is doing, is translating that sentence. So for us, to figure out what our APR is, take the numbers, plug them in. So we have 4,000 divided by 28,800, and then multiply that by 100, round this to nearest hundredth. And the reason you're rounding it to the nearest hundredth is that if you look at the table, all of the numbers are in hundredths. So let's see, 4,000 divided by 2,800 times 100. You guys get 13.88888. So this, rounded to the nearest hundred. 13.89. Now, here's how the APR table works. It's weird. You are very happy you showed up today because using this table is weird. Alright, the way you do it is in the row that represents the number of payments you're making. How many payments are we making? 48. So go to row 48. And what you want to do is go to the right until you find the number closest to that value. And yes, get out your magnifying glass. I apologize. And if it's not on the page you're looking, go to the next page because then the numbers continue. Alright, so the numbers are always growing as you go from page to page to page. So eventually, you should find a number that's just less than it and a number that's just more than it, right? What are those two numbers?
13.83.
13.83, that's the one just below it.
And the other one is 14.39.
14.39. All right, the way you figure out the APR is you take those two numbers and figure out which one is closer to the actual value.
So it doesn't matter if it's more or less.
Doesn't matter if it's more or less, it's just whichever one is closer. Right, because how far is this one away? 0.06. How far is this one away? Subtract them, what do you get?
0.5.
Which number is smaller? 0.06. This is the winner. So from that number, go up until you hit your percentage. So from 13.83, this tells you that my APR was 6.5%. That's how APR works. It's weird. I completely agree that it's weird. So you'll do this a couple of times. What I will tell you, though, is that I will not ask you to calculate this on a test.
Oh.
Yeah. You will have to do it on the homework once or twice, but that's it. All right? And the reason why, folks, is that APR is a number that is always reported with every loan that you get. They have to, by law. So, unless you're breaking the law and borrowing money from a loan shark, you will always know what your APR is. Okay? Not bad? All right, so these are the four basics right here. All right? These last two, calculating monthly payment or APR, those are sometimes not necessary, or they are also information that are sometimes given to you. All right? So, let's try another one. So in that problem over here, I gave you what my finance charge was. And you had to calculate what your monthly payment was. Let's flip those. So instead, let me tell you the problem, how much I'm buying, how much I'm down paying, and then I'll tell you what my monthly payment is, and it's your job to go the other direction. Alright, so, what should I buy this time? We can't buy a car again. Boat. Okay, so, buying a boat. How much?
100,000.
That's going to be a short-term loan? You must think I'm rich. Let's just buy a 12-footer. How's that?
All right. I don't know what the price.
Okay, 12-footer going to run me about 14,000 bucks. I can't afford $100,000, that's a yacht. That would be a 25-footer. You would need to have a slip that you could, yeah. That's when you live in Florida and you have nothing better to do than hang around on your boat.
You could get one of those little pontoons and go on rocks with it. That's about a $14,000.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, a little 12-footer, flat bottom, none of these, fancy things. No, I don't got that kind of stuff. All right, so, let's say that I put, suppose I put, let's say $4,000 down. I financed my boat for 2 years with a monthly payment of, let's go with, just gotta make sure I paid more than $10,000. 10,000 divided by 24, what's that?
$416.60.
Okay, so let's say $450. So, now, do the same sort of stuff. Calculate the 4 basics, right? Tell me what was the down payment, tell me what the amount financed was, tell me what the finance charge, tell me what the deferred payment price was, technically tell me what the monthly payment was, and tell me what the APR is. Alright? So those are the 6 possible things that I could ask you. Some of them, of course, they will be given straight up to you. Hopefully, those will be just like 3 points. So, what was my down payment? And how'd you know that? Okay, like I said, take your free points when you're given them and walk away. Alright? How much did I finance then? And how did you get $10,000? Price minus the down payment. I financed $10,000. Uh-oh. What's my finance charge? How'd you figure that out? Why did you take 450 times 24, JP?
Because that is your monthly payment as you look at the time.
Right. Remember, you're making $450 payments for 2 years. So that's going to be 450 times 24 payments. That's going to be how much money you actually pay. And how much did you borrow? 10,000, right? So your finance charge as a formula is total payments minus amount financed. All right, that's the formula that you use to calculate your finance charge. Basically, figure out how much more you're paying than you're actually borrowing. That's the simple way of thinking about your finance charge. And what did you say that number was again, JP? 10,800, so it was $800 of financing. Very good, very good. So, how much am I actually going to pay for this boat? Again, there are two ways that you can do it, right? You can take the price plus your finance charge, or add up all the money that you paid, right? I put $4,000 down, and then I made 24 payments of $450, which was $10,800. 4,000 plus 10,800, $14,800 either way, right? So there's two ways that you can do this. Price plus finance charge, or total payments plus down payment. And these are ways that you can check that you have calculated the deferred payment price correctly. Calculate it one way, calculate it the other way, make sure you get the same answer. If you get the same answer, there's a good bet you did them right. Alright, so for us, and then our check was the 10,800 plus the 4,000 down. It's still going to give us the same answer. All right, now, what's my monthly payment?
$450.
Take your 3 points when you get them. Last but not least,
What's the APR?
all right, now, again, the APR is the amount financed, is the finance charge per amount financed for $100 of amount financed. So take your finance charge, $800, divide by your amount financed, 10,000, and then multiply by 100. Nice number there. What do we get?
8.
8. Technically 8.00 because we're going to hundreds. Now, again, go to your APR tables. What row are you going to go to this time? 24, right? Remember that it's not always row 48 because it's how many payments you're making. So go to row 24, and we're looking for the number 8. 24, let's see. There we go. And what do you discover?
7.
There is a number that is exactly 8.00. And you will see that I am getting a 7.5% APR on my loan to purchase this wonderfully nice pontoon boat. Cheap metal pontoon boat though. Alright, so that's the first part of chapter 14. Please note that we are going to skip the rule of 78. You may read something in the text that talks about the rule of 78. Please ignore it if it's in there. I think they took it out this version of the text, but just in case you have an older book that you're working off of. Make sure it's not in there. Alright, okay, they've gotten rid of it. It's gone in the new textbook. Realize that if you have the old version, ignore the rule of 78. But we will come back on Wednesday and talk about credit cards and calculating finance charges off of your credit cards.
There's a little spot on your statement that says finance chart, and it's all you.
Do you trust your credit card company?
No, but do I care?
As much as I trust my bank.
I very trust my
I check mine every time I have to pay a finance charge, folks. Of course,
Are they ever wrong?
my bank has been wrong for you. They calculated interest incorrectly 1 month. I sent them a notice and they said, "Oh, you're sorry." But